We are about to dive into this distance learning journey, and the topic for the session today is Level Up Your Google Classroom. It's hosted by the Technology Training Team, along with the support from our Title I partners. Here are your instructors for this session. You will also hear from Clarissa Burton, Kimberly Roberson, and Christina Jerome. So we want to make sure that you're in the right session. If you are looking for how to create a classroom, how to add students or add your first post or assignments, you may want to attend our Getting Started with Google Classroom session. This session is for people who already have Google Classroom and you've been using it with your students, and you just want some ways to maximize the features that are available in Classroom. We're going to go through several tips. Some you may know, and some may be some new ideas for you. So let's get started with decorating your virtual classroom. And here are some of the tips that we will cover. Even though you have your current classroom, we're moving into a whole new thing for us as well as our students. This is going to be completely online. So you may want to make some changes to your classroom. And these will be some tips that you may want to consider. So we're starting with personalizing your banner. When you create your classroom in Google Classroom, by default, it asks you the name of your class, and then Google tries to pick a banner that they think would be best for your class. You can always change that, and they have some different themes that are available, but you can also customize your own banner and create your own banner for your class. So if you wanted to have something different to welcome your class into our new online virtual environment, consider creating a banner. We do have a template that will help you as far as creating the banner, and we will provide that template on our remote teaching site. Hopefully we'll post it later today, but if not, definitely by tomorrow morning. And we'll get a chance to see what that banner might look like in a classroom in just a second. Our next tip is updating your settings. So again, this may have been something that you already did, but we want to emphasize some of the things that are available in settings. So I'm going to jump over to our Google Classroom so that you can see what a custom banner might look like. So you can see that here, our custom banner. And then if I want to go to settings, I'm going to go in the upper right-hand corner and you should see a little cogwheel. You're going to select that cogwheel, and that will open up your settings. Once I'm in settings, I'm going to scroll down to the general section. And here in the general section, there are a couple things that we wanted to point out. When you first create your class, Google sets it where, I think this is not the setting that it usually is. Google usually has it set where students can post and comment. We recommend changing that setting and either turning it to where only teachers can post or comment, or that students can only comment. Again, you've been using your classroom already with your students, so you probably have set some things in place, but know that these are some different options that are available to you that you can do in your settings. Also, for the classwork on the stream. So one of the things that Google has with our newer version of Google Classroom is when we post on the stream, it's your announcements, but it also is notifications about classwork that has been posted. Some people like it set up that way. And then others, like myself, prefer to keep the stream clean and just have it with the announcements and have students go to the classwork page for all assignments. So if you would like to remove those other notifications, this is where you would go. You would click on the drop down, and instead of show condensed notifications, you would choose hide notifications. And that way, the only thing that appears on your stream is announcements that you post. Also here in our settings, when we need to turn on Guardian Summaries, you'll see that there, but we'll talk about that a little bit later. And then down to the grading section. So for the grading section, Google has added where you could have um, an overall grade calculation done here and even done by weights. We are recommending that PGCPS teachers do not use this feature. Because SchoolMax is our student information system and our system of record, we do not want students to see one grade in Google Classroom and then see a different grade in SchoolMax. So overall, we recommend not using this grading section or changing this overall grade, leaving it to no overall grade posted. So you can still grade assignments, but we just don't want it to show an overall grade that students or parents are expecting to receive. Once you make any changes to your class settings, you want to go ahead to the upper right-hand corner and click on the Save button to save all of your settings. And so while I'm here in Classroom, there's another tip that we wanted to talk about, and that is notifications. So I'm sure if you have already been using Google Classroom over the past couple weeks, you may have gotten your inbox flooded with emails from students when they are responding to comments, doing class comments or sending private comments. And that can be overwhelming, especially if you are in multiple classes. So definitely for the classes that you are the primary educator for in teaching, you may want to leave those notifications on. But if you are in additional classes, whether it's because you've been part of some type of professional development and they created a Google Classroom, or maybe you're supporting some of your colleagues by just providing them with helpful tips and they've added you as a teacher in their classroom, you may want to turn off some of those notifications. So I'm going to show you how you would do that now. Over on the left-hand side, you have three lines. If you select those three lines, you'll see all of the classes that you are a teacher of, as well as the classes that you are a student. And if you scroll to the bottom, and you'll notice that I have quite a few classes, but if you scroll to the bottom, you will see a settings icon there. So if I click on settings, this will take me to my notification area. This first section that you see is where you are turning on notifications for all of your classes. So if I turn any of these off, that means it's turning off for all of my classes. And that may not be what I want to do. Instead, what I want to do is maybe certain classes I've decided I do not need to receive notifications for. So in that case, I'm going to scroll down to where it says class notifications and click on the drop down. And then it will show me all of the classes that I am the teacher for. And then I can select the ones that I no longer need to receive the notifications for. Just turn it out. And at any time, you can always turn it back on if you find that you're missing things and you need to have those notifications turned back on. And I can return to my class just by clicking on those three lines and hopping back over to my classroom. So that was modifying notifications. And the next tip is using topics to organize your resources. So many of you may have already been using topics, or topics may be something new for you. So topics is a way to organize all of your assignments, maybe organize some of the materials that you want to provide to students, like your syllabus or classwork, or just resources that you have for them. You can put them in different topics. And if you're using topics now, you may also just want to reconsider how you're using the topics as we move forward with complete online instruction. So do you want to organize your topics by unit of study? Or do you want to organize your topics by the weeks that we are away from face-to-face instruction? Whatever you think will work best for you, but also more importantly, what will work best for your students and parents if they are providing assistance. What's going to be the clearest way for them to access your information. The nice thing with topics is when you select one of them, it will filter to just show the assignments for that particular topic. And keeping along with the topic, a way that we can add some decoration to our topics is by adding emojis. So we can actually add emojis to enhance our topics. It's a small thing, but it's something that your students will notice when they come back into your classroom and see those emojis there. So we have provided for you two extensions. These are Chrome extensions that you could use to enhance your topic area with. So Joy Pixels is one that I have used, and then emojis for Chrome. And again, it just puts a little icon there next to whatever your topic is, and you get to select what you want that icon to be. So I know earlier we've had people who have asked about emojis. If you want to see my icon for Joy Pixels is actually up. You can see where right next to the icon of my face at the top, that is the icon for Joy Pixels. And I'll show you what it looks like in our classroom in a second. All right, so thinking about your students, how are they going to be accessing your Google Classroom? They may be using Chromebooks that they got as part of the distribution. They may be using desktops or laptops that they have at home. But for some of our students, they may also be using their iPads or mobile devices. So make sure that if they are using those mobile devices, that they know that they can download the Classroom app. So it is available for iOS or Android devices. And there are some benefits to using the Classroom app. One, the students will be able to see all of their assignments that they have. But two, they can also annotate as part of the work that they are turning in. And if you consider using the Classroom app as well on a mobile device, you can annotate on top of student work. So this may be good for students working out a math problem, showing some type of brainstorming session, or just their visual thinking. So again, consider using the app for that type of feature, but definitely letting the students know that if that's the only device they have, they can still participate by having the Classroom app. Another feature that is available for teachers with the mobile app is the Classroom Picker. So if you are doing a live virtual lesson and maybe you wanted to call on students, this is essentially like the random name picker, but it's just using your class list in order to select the names. So those are two features that are only available on the Classroom app. And speaking about apps, we wanted to mention that there are apps, third-party apps that integrate with Google Classroom. There are many apps that are out there. A lot of them do work with Google Classroom, but we wanted to make sure that you are also aware. And actually, let me explain when I say integrate, what I'm referring to. So if I go to some of these apps like Screencastify, that's one of the ones that we are offering during these 3 days of professional development, 3 or 4 days. Screencastify will allow you to make tutorials, little 5-minute tutorials for your students. So this would be something that's in addition to the lessons that you are either doing live or recording, but maybe you just want to show them a quick step of how to solve a problem or accomplish a task. So you could use Screencastify. After you create your video, it will give you an option to send that video directly to your Google Classroom. And many of these other third-party apps will do the same type of thing. But some things to keep in mind when we are focusing on our third-party tools is we want to make sure that one, we're not introducing too many new tools at one time. We want to make sure that we don't want to overwhelm our students or overwhelm our parents that are trying to support the students at home. So this is already a new experience for all of them. They're going to be getting used to being completely online, watching virtual lessons, trying to submit work. So just be cautious about how many new things you introduce at one time. If you've already been using these, then that's great. And you can continue to incorporate them because they're already familiar with the tools. Also, as you're looking at third-party tools, keep in mind that you want to make sure that the tools do not require the students to make any type of an account. So these should be tools where students can either join by a code or some other way, but they should not have to create an account to use those third-party tools. So here are some examples of ones that we have used within our school system, just to give you an idea. And at a later time, right now our focus is on providing professional development around classroom and ways that you can conduct virtual lessons. But at a later time, we will provide some professional development around some of these other types of third-party tools. So now that we have our class all set up, let's talk about preparing for our lessons. And what things do we need to think about as we're preparing for our lessons using Google Classroom? So here are some of the tips that we will review. And again, they may either be something that you've seen before or it may be something new. So the first one is numbering your assignments. We got this idea from another secondary teacher. And she said that she used the numbers and basically is still creating the assignment the way you normally would. But before the name, she just put the 001 and 002 to name the assignments with numbers. And she found that that helped the students easily identify the assignments. Or if she posted an announcement, she could say, make sure that you complete number 2 under the science section without having to write the entire title of the assignment. So again, that's just a suggestion or a possibility if that's something that may work for you and your students. Posting recordings. Now, one of the expectations as we have moved online is that teachers will be conducting either pre-recorded lessons for their students or live lessons. So you'll be doing those recordings through Google Meet or Zoom. And even if you're doing a live lesson, there's still an expectation that you will record the lesson for anyone that could not be present during your live lesson. So either way, you're going to be recording your lessons. Whatever tool that you choose to use, and again, we're offering sessions on Google Meet and Google Zoom. Those are the ones that you would use for a 30-minute lesson, and Screencastify is one that you would use just for tutorials. But for any of them, you will get a link for your video, for your recording. And if you're putting any of those recordings in Google Drive, because Google Meet and Screencastify will go directly to Drive, you want to make sure that you share the link with anyone in PGCPS with the link can view, just to ensure that the students don't have any problems with accessing your links. And once you have those links that have been shared, you can post them in Classroom. And so when you post them in Classroom, we're recommending that you post them either as an assignment or as a question. If you post it as material, then the students, you won't be able to see if the students did anything with it. If you post it as a question, you could then pose a question for the students to respond to after watching the lesson video. And so then you at least know that they clicked on something and turned it in as far as the question. Or for the assignment, even if it's something where they can just mark as done, then at least you know that they clicked on something and they acknowledged that the recording was there. So we're asking that you would post it using one of those formats. Scheduling posts. I use this often. If you want to work ahead of time and kind of get a lesson set up, you can do that in Google Classroom by creating your lesson. And instead of clicking the Assign button, you would click on the drop down next to Assign, and you will see the option to schedule it. And you can schedule that assignment to post automatically, whatever date you decide, and even down to a particular time that you want it to be posted. So that's a nice feature. It's almost like the set it and forget it. You go ahead and create your assignment and then schedule it so that it can be released. Also, while we're here and on this page, there's the save draft option as well. So if you're working on a particular assignment and maybe it's not quite done, you still have a resource that you're working to build to attach to that particular assignment, you can save it as draft. And that way it'll appear grayed out on your classroom screen, but the students won't see it at all. So that's another way to kind of work ahead and just save it as draft. And then you have to come back and release it. So for if it's a draft, you have to remember to come back in, make any edits, then assign. If it's scheduled, Google Classroom will automatically release it at the date you designate. Reuse posts. That's also a great one. And I know in some of our previous sessions today, some of our teachers have liked the reuse of posts. So I'm going to actually show that one over in Classroom. So I'm going to come back to our Classroom and click on my Classwork tab. And here, when I come to my Classwork tab, you can see some of the things that I mentioned earlier. So you can see our topics that are here. And if I click on a particular topic, it focuses the attention to only showing information about that topic. I don't see everything else. I can always go back to all topics to see my complete classroom and all the topics that are there. You can also see those emojis that we talked about. So again, they're just nice little icons that you can put next to the topic just to add a little something to your classroom. But now we're going to talk about the reuse of post. So I would use reuse of post if I've created an assignment in another class. Maybe it's something I used last semester, or just I made the assignment earlier and now I want to reuse that assignment in this current classroom. What I would do is go to the class where I want the assignment to be posted, click on Create, come down to Reuse Post, and it will initially show a screen like this. This shows all of the classes that you are currently using, so it will not show your archive classes, but it will show the classes that you are currently doing. And you select the class where you know that that assignment is already located. And then I find the assignment that I would like to reuse. So maybe I want to add this information about the public library card to my resource section. So I can click on that particular assignment and choose reuse. As I select reuse, it automatically creates the assignment for me because it's just bringing it in from that other class that I have. If I need to make any changes as far as grades or due date, I can do that as well. Here it brought in the topic that it was associated with in the other class. So if I don't have that topic in this current class, I probably want to click the X to close that out. And then I could choose where I want it to go, which would be under the resource section. And then I simply click Assign here. But I just wanted to point out, this is that drop down that I mentioned earlier, where you can see the schedule and save draft. But for this instance, I'm going to click Assign so you can see how it comes in. So now down here at the bottom, there is my public library card, and I was able to just reuse it from another class and didn't have to retype everything and add new attachments. So that is there for you as well. And then the other tip while we're here is just reorganizing either your classwork page or your stream. So on your classwork page, if I decided I wanted my resource section to be at the top, I can simply click on it and just drag it and move it wherever I want it to be. So you can drag and drop on the classwork page, and it's not just by topics. I can do that even within the assignments or materials. I can just reorder it where I need it to go. And then on my stream, if I'm using this again mainly as a place where I might put my announcements, next to any particular one, I can click on the three dots. And just so you know, in Google, anytime you see three dots, there's usually something more that you can do. So always just kind of click on those three dots to see what other features are there. What else can I do with this? But if I click on those three dots, I can choose to move it to the top. And that will allow this particular announcement to move to the top of my stream. So that can be helpful as well, especially as you are posting things for your students to either complete or just announcements that you need them to know. And the more you post, it kind of goes down on the stream, but you can always move one up to the top. And so that was kind of our reorganizing the stream and classwork section. And at this time, if you give me a moment, we're going to take a pause and allow for questions. So this would be your time to ask any questions. I'm just turning on the rights for everyone. So you want to open up that chat icon, and you want to make sure that you select send to everyone so that everyone can see your question. And we will either be responding by typing your response in, or we will be responding just verbally answering the questions. So I'll give you a moment to start adding your questions.
Thank you, Monica. Am I muted or unmuted?
You're unmuted.
Okay. Just wanted to make sure that everyone also noted that there is some information already in the chat. So if you want to scroll to the top, may have answered some questions you may have had. So please review that as well as you are thinking of your questions. Thank you.
Okay, I see the question about, no, you can't have the muted so that we can address some of the questions. We prefer for the questions to come in chat as opposed to conversations.
There's a person on there.
All right, so again, if you can mute yourself, thank you. I've seen a couple questions come in about reusing a post. So that was back on the classwork page, and that's up under create, reuse post. You have to have a post that you already want to use from another class. So you're going to start in the class where you're bringing the post in. Your current, and then you go and find the other class that currently has the post. So it's not moving it from that other class, it's just reusing it. So it's basically making a copy of it and bringing it into your current class. So you would find, again, whichever one that is. You would just pick what a particular assignment is, click reuse, and that will bring it into your current classroom. I also saw a question about the emojis. Again, if you can stay muted, we would appreciate that. So how we would add the emoji, again, you have to have the extension installed. That is something that you can do in Google Chrome if you go to the web store for Google Chrome. How you would get there, just open a new tab and click on the apps icon. See the web store, and then you could search for those extensions that we mentioned. The one that I used was Joy Pixels. It's like the icon that's right here in the little green circle that's up here on my extension bar. And if I was to add it in, feedback, so again, if we can mute our microphones, thank you. But if I was going to add a topic in, I would come to create, add a topic, and maybe I'm going to say materials. And then I would go and click on my icon for the extension, and it opens up, and then I can look for whatever type of icon that I want to use. I can search, or I can just click on these different options here and bring it in. It copies it, plops it right in. If I wanted it to be before, I would just move it and then click add. But it's not coming through. Usually it works, but it's not coming through. But it should, I don't know.
This is Kim from the technology training team. A few people have asked if you could repeat the information that you shared about the recording and how to ensure that recordings are uploaded. While Monica is preparing for that, I just wanted to point out that you have 2 options to record, actually 3 options to record a session with Zoom, Google Meet, or Screencastify. Remember that we are offering individual sessions for each of those. So you may choose to attend either Zoom or Meet and then Screencastify to learn more about how to use those tools.
Okay, so if I was, and I don't have a video to show right now, but I could go to create. I could choose assignment, or I could choose question. So for the videos that Kim just mentioned, again, Google Meet and Google Zoom are what we're recommending for those extended lessons, those 30-minute to 40-minute lessons that you will be doing with your students. Screencastify is what we're recommending if you're just doing short tutorials in addition to the required pre-recorded lessons that you are doing or live lessons. So you have all of those different tools. They all will provide a link to their recording. If you're using Screencastify, there's an option to bring it right in from Screencastify to Google Classroom. But for Google Meet and Zoom, you will get a link that you need to share in Google Drive. So if I was in Drive, I would click on my little person, click on the recording, select the person icon, and then make sure that I'm sharing it so that anyone in PGCPS with the link could access. Then I would come over and create my question. I'm just putting whatever. Any instructions, watch the video, and whatever your, actually up here would be my question, but my instructions would be watch the video and respond. And then down here, I would click on the add button to bring in my link. Okay, so I can either bring it in right from Drive because I have it there, or if I had a link that's provided by Zoom, I could choose link and bring it in that way. Right, and then you would just click save. So your students would be able to see the question that you're posing about the recording if they weren't there for the live lesson, or if you just pre-recorded your lesson. Hopefully that answered the question. I'm gonna delete this one. I see, how do you make a topic and have the topic copied for each session? I'm not sure if I can copy the topic, and any of my other presenters can jump in. There is a way that you can copy your whole class. Like if you found that, oh, I have this class set up for my period 1 group, but I wasn't using Google Classroom with another group, I can come back to my main classroom page. And again, like I said, those 3 dots, there's always more information there, but I could click on those 3 dots
Click on audio.
and choose to copy that
Yeah.
class. Don't want to do that. But I could choose to copy the class, and that would copy my topics over. But I don't know if we can just copy individual topics. Okay, so we have more tips that we want to make sure that we are able to share with you. So at this point, we are going to stop our chat.
All right, so we're going to talk about ways to share assignments with the students and the different ways that you can do that. So there are 3 ways to share assignments. The first way is to share assignments so students can just view the file. That's just so they can see it and look at it. They can't do anything to it. They can't manipulate it in any way. This is good maybe for a reading passage or just notes you want to share with them. If you want all the students to edit a file, you will choose Students Can Edit. That means every single student that this is shared with can edit this file. I do not recommend this for all assignments, but it is great for group work. Make a copy for each student is really where you want to spend or assign most of the work. Here, students get a copy of each assignment. It basically is like going to the copy machine and printing out worksheets or papers for each of your students. There are some things to know when you make a copy for each student. You have to be the owner of the file. That means if someone shared a document with you, you have to make sure that you are the owner. And the other thing is it only works with Google Files. That's a Google Doc, a Google Sheet, a Google Slide, Google Drawings. It does not work with PDFs, and it does not work with anything from Microsoft Office. After students turn them an assignment, they no longer have the ability to edit that assignment until you return it to them. There they can unsubmit it and do their own work. Please note that due date will affect whether they can submit the work and return it to them. So just be mindful of setting those due dates so that they can edit those assignments. I'm going to go ahead and show that to you. Went to create and select assignment. So I already did start it here, so I'm just going to go ahead and open up that draft and select edit. From here, I titled my lesson fractions. Down when I selected my assignment, so I am going to delete it, I have to select an assignment from my Google Drive. So remember that if I want to make a copy for all of my students, it has to come from the Drive, and it needs to be part of the Google Suite. The default is students can view files. We want to change that if we want each student to have their own copy, which means other students cannot edit the work, they cannot see each other's work. We got to choose make a copy. One thing to note is once you assign this and you go back and edit, you cannot change it to make a copy again. So you want to make sure that you do that the first time. While we're on this screen, some other things to note on this page is underneath 4 is a great way for you to differentiate your lessons. So underneath all students, every student in your class is listed here. So say I wanted to do group work, I could uncheck all students and select just the students I want to be part of a group. If this is the case, I would change this to those 2 students can edit the file, meaning those 2 students have access to this, and then I could assign it to them. For this purpose, I'm going to leave it at make a copy for each student, and I'm going to assign it to all my students. On the same screen, you can also share this with multiple classes. So think about all the classes that you have that you are teaching, right? And all the section numbers you have, you can assign this one time by selecting the other classes that you teach. So that's a one-time go into the copy machine solution for you. So I definitely suggest you use the 4. Don't forget to make sure that you label that topic. So this is week 1 for fractions. So I want to make sure that my students have access to the fraction lesson under that piece. Before I leave this screen, just note down here that you'll see originality reports. Here, if I decide to check originality reports, you will notice that for 3 assignments, I receive originality reports. You can only use this 3 times per a Google Classroom. It is limited. What an originality report is, it's like turnitin.com, where you can check for plagiarism on the assignment itself. You can only do it 3 times for Google Classroom, and the students can check that assignment 3 times just to make sure it is original. So students get 3 times per assignment you check, and you get to use it 3 times in a Google Classroom. So that is down here for originality reports. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to assign this to my students so they have access to this fraction lesson. So just a little recap, we talked about the 3 ways to share. We discussed that you can differentiate assignments, so we can choose which students receive each assignment. It's perfect for group work and projects. We went over assigning work to multiple classes. So remember, don't forget, you don't have to go into each classroom to assign the same work. You can do that one time. So now we're going to look into those rubrics, how to verify collaboration, emailing students, and sharing Guardian summaries. We will also dive a little bit into the grading features. So we are going to look at rubrics. You can create and reuse rubrics in Google Classroom, adding the descriptions and assigning values. And I'm going to go through how easy it is to grade assignments with the rubric. So I'm going to go back into my classroom to that fraction lesson, and I'm going to edit that lesson. So you'll see on that fourth side, add a rubric here. You can reuse a rubric that you've already created, or you can create a new rubric. On this screen, you can choose to have descending or ascending point values. You have to do a criteria first, and you can add a criterion description. So your points are going to be how much each section is worth. So say I'm going to have 2 criteria. The most they can get is 100 on this assignment, and I'm going to descend down. The level is that 4, 3, 2, 1. And then the description is exactly what you expect to see under each one. So down at the bottom left-hand side, I can add a new criteria, or if I don't feel like I want to type this all again, I can go to those 3 dots and select duplicate, and then I just have to change this content title to something else, and that way my points add up to 100 up here. When I'm finished, I select Save, and now that rubric is added to the assignment. Students have the ability to see the rubric at all times. They have access to the assignment, and then we'll show you how easy it is to grade those rubrics. So I also have added a rubric down here to this math journal. I'm going to open up that it's been assigned to these students. And you'll notice that you will see the word here. So I'm going to go ahead and open up this student. I did grade her in the last session, but I'm going to go ahead and revisit that rubric to grade her again. So over here on the right-hand side, if I scroll down, you're going to see where it says rubric. I can scroll down to see exactly what that criteria is and select how well the student did. Down at the bottom, I can add feedback on a private comment. And I can post it to that student. And when I'm finished, you'll notice that it automatically grades it. It shows me the previous grade the student received. And then I'll go ahead and return it to that student. So now the student receives the comment, it receives their new grade. Also on the screen, you'll notice that these are arrows to toggle back and forth. This is like you flipping through papers as you're grading. You can easily flip through each student to check them, or hit that drop-down arrow, and if students have turned it in, you would have a list of students here, and you can notice that you can do it by status, last name, or first name. Verifying collaboration. So you want to see what your students did. So there are a couple ways of doing that. There is an extension called DraftBack. DraftBack only works in Google Docs, and what it does is it gives a replay of exactly what happened in that Google Doc, what the thinking was, who contributed to which part. You do have to be the owner of the document. So if you have a co-teacher, we're not quite sure if that draft back would work for the co-teacher, but it will definitely work for you as the person that created the assignment. The other way is through version history. So version history is available on any Google file. It tracks what time revisions were made and who made them. So this is huge when you're checking group work. And it's also big when maybe your students delete everything from their assignment. They say, oh, I can't do it, everything's gone. You can go back in, select File, go down to Version History. You have the option to name that current version, but you'll see down here it says See Version History. Over on the right-hand side, you'll see exactly who made the revisions and what time. I can hit that drop-down arrow and it will show me exactly who made them, and I can go back in time to see what those revisions were. And if they erase the entire document, I can click on the original and select Restore this version. That is huge when they do happen to delete everything on the page. So if you need to get in contact with your students, you can email them one at a time or multiple students at once. So I'm going to go back into this Google Classroom, and you'll notice up here that it says people. So underneath people, this plus sign next to teachers is so you can add that co-teacher. But down under students is where we are going to email them. So you'll notice that there are check marks here. If I check this one up at the top, I can choose to email all students at once or mute all my students or even remove them. If I uncheck that, I can choose specific students that I want to email. I can choose more than one. I can also choose to mute them. So muting means that they're no longer allowed to add class comments for the time. You can also unmute them at any time when you feel they're ready to contribute back to the class. But that option is there for you. On the same page, we're going to talk about guardian summaries. So guardian summaries allows for parents to have access to what is in the classwork tab. So that's missing assignments, that is work that will be coming up, and that is work that they did this week. Once a parent is joined to one Google Classroom, so if Kim, my student is Kim, and her parent joins, she will also be part of the same, she'll also be part of the other classrooms that Kim is in. So she's part of multiple, so that parent doesn't have to keep being added multiple times. All right, so we're going to go into Google Classroom. The first thing you have to do to turn on Guardian Summaries is to go to Settings up at the top right-hand side. We're going to scroll down to where Monica was earlier, and we're going to make sure that Guardian Summaries is on. Down here, you will see an example of what that email looks like for parents. So you'll see missing work from last week, what's due next week, and what happened this week. Parents do not have the right to see these assignments, what the student did. They also don't have the right to edit them. We are saying, please do not invite your parents into the Google Classroom as students. We want to make sure that the work is the students' work themselves. And the parents do have the right to unsubscribe. They do not have to be receive these notifications once they are part of the Google Classroom. They can choose whether they see them daily, weekly, or biweekly, and how detailed they want those notifications to be. So once you've toggled that on, you're going to select people, and you're going to go to where it says Invite Guardians next to that student name. So I'm going to choose Invite Guardians. You'll type in their email. Oh, I have a lot of children here today. So you'll type in their email and you will invite. They will be invited to the class where they will need to subscribe to whatever settings that they choose to have, weekly, bi-weekly, or weekly. All right. So before I move on, I am going to show you this last tab here, which is grades. You're going to notice that the grades section, it looks like a lot like your grading notebook, where you can type in or you can write in each student's grades. That's exactly what you can do here. You can write in the grades for each of your students. If you want to go into more detailed and pull out that folder, you simply click on the lesson. You'll see all the students' work here. You can grade it on the left-hand side and return that work to your students. Or to see them individually, you would simply click on it. The assignment would pop up. You can enter in the grade they deserve or the grade they earned and press return. So here you can see how I can toggle through all of my students' work. The other thing to note is while I'm in this specific lesson, if you go over to the right-hand side and select the settings, here you can download all the grades to a CSV, that's an Excel sheet, or you can copy them to a Google Sheet. So if you want that full printout of all the grades so you can then go put them into SchoolMax, this is where that piece is. So that's grading in the gradebook. Remember, it does not transfer into SchoolMax. That piece does not work, but you do have the option to at least have the virtual gradebook here for your students. All right, so what we're going to do now is we're going to open up that chat so we can answer your questions. I'm going to go ahead and open it up for you. All right, so chat is open. Remember to click on the speech bubble and to chat the message to everyone. I'm going to go ahead and open up that it to questions for you now. So version history is not going to tell you whether they turned it in or not. What it's going to do is just kind of show you what was done. It's a good reminder and good practice to kind of teach them to turn it in. It's like having them pull it out of their locker, get it out of their book bag. It's just a matter of routine and habit. And once they get in the routine of turning in assignments, it becomes more natural of a process. No, when a student submits an assignment, their peers cannot see it. Unless it's everyone can edit, their peers cannot see it. They can share their assignment with other students, but as a owner of the document and the teacher, you can go in and see who they shared it with and turn that feature off. You can create multiple choice quizzes using Google Forms, so that is an option. You can create that right inside Google Classroom. Access to math symbols. So there are some extensions that allow you to have access to math symbols. My favorite is Equatio, and it is a tool from Text Help. Teachers get one Text Help account for free. So if you do teach math and you use math symbols frequently, I definitely suggest that extension for you. It works in Google Forms and all the other Google apps. All right. All right, I'm going to roll up through our questions. Hello? The extension was called Equatio. We're going to write that in the chat for you so that you can access that.
Hello, we couldn't
Yes,
see your screen.
So in order for, you have to have parents' emails in order for them to be added into the Google Classroom. There's no other way for you to add them beyond an email.
We couldn't see your screen.
All right, so please reach out to us when you, for help. So our email address is t3@pgcps.org. Our website is bit.ly/pgcps remote teaching. Okay, all of our future sessions and other resources will be posted there. Please follow us on Twitter at T3PGCPS. And if you need to learn more about our department, our website is bit.ly/T3PGCPS. thank you so much for joining us. We are here for you through this whole process, so don't forget to reach out. I hope you have a great day.
Thank you. Thank you.